everyone, how are you doing? Welcome back to Viveka Service Society's Nirman, a capacity building institution. So we are in the third session today and I'm going to talk to you about public speaking. What do you understand about public speaking? Why is it so many people do have fear about public speaking? Do you feel the fear when you're speaking to public? Do you go through the fear? Does it happen for you that your palms start sweating, your heart starts racing? All of these, does that happen to you when you're standing in front of public? Yes? Today we're going to talk about public speaking. I'm going to tell you what are the issues that you face with the public speaking. Firstly, before we get into the whole of public speaking, I want you to understand one thing. Public speaking is a skill. Based on the practice, based on the amount of time you invest in it, like anyone else, you can learn public speaking. So, no one is born with public speaking to start with, but people learn it through everyday practice. Before we go into session, I want you to understand that public speaking is a skill like any other skill. And like anyone else, as they start to learn and practice and hone their skills, you also can hone the skill of public speaking. You can stand before a crowd and speak confidently before all the people if you start practicing. Practice is the only way in order to get to the public speaking. How do you practice? In front of mirror, with your parents. If you're going to pitch a business idea, first pitch the business idea with your kids or with your spouse or with your parents or with the person you're living with. Therefore, it makes it easy for you to go to another person and talk about the idea that you're going to pitch about. So, let us speak about today some, I wouldn't say tips, but yeah, secrets in order to improve yourself with the public speaking. Yeah. So, do you understand that public speaking as such is one of the most important skills that you need to have irrespective of the industry you are in? Doesn't matter if you're in IT industry, software industry, service industry, social sector or the transport sector, manufacturing sector, doesn't matter. Public speaking is a skill that you necessarily need to have in order to build your proper career and also to have a good career in any industry that you are involved in. So, now we will speak about few things that you need to inculcate to have a better public speaking skill. Firstly, once you understand that it is a skill, the second you need to know is that if suppose you're speaking to a set of audience, it is all about the audience. How do you look? How do you look and what do people perceive about you is not something for you to worry about. It is something about what audience are thinking about, and you need to believe that you have a message to deliver. You're before the crowd because you know something, because you're trying to send a message to the crowd because they have a need to listen to what you're talking and therefore they are your audience. So understand the fact that those are the audience who are sitting in front of you to receive the message that you're trying to give, and therefore they are there to listen to you. And once you build this confidence inside you that you have good amount of content to deliver to those set of audience, you automatically become more confident than what you are. Second thing is visualize yourself as a confident speaker. So if you're going to talk to someone tomorrow, make sure that you try to practice the same thing in the shower today. So if you're going to speak to a crowd tomorrow, make sure that you speak in front of mirror today. If you're going to speak to a crowd tomorrow, talk to your roommates if you're a hostelite, talk to your parents if you're a day scholar, talk to your kids if you're a father or mother, talk to your spouse if you start living with someone, talk to your roommate. And therefore tomorrow when you go in front of a set of audience, irrespective of the number of the people sitting in front of you, it becomes easy for you to understand the responses of the audience that you have already received from your colleagues or from your family or your partners who you've been with. Therefore, you gauge the ideas of people who are in front of you, and it becomes easy for you to understand the ideas of how the people in front of you are thinking. So that's the third thing. Next, what you need to know is you have to know the content very well. You have to know the stuff what you're going to talk about. Make sure that you don't make mistakes and you do not go there with half knowledge. Whenever you go in front of a crowd, make sure the message that you've prepared to give into the crowd is complete. It should be so necessary that it becomes imperative that you definitely should know what you're talking about. If not, you would become a laughing stock. If you go in front of a crowd and then you get stumbled, people are gonna definitely not look at you as someone who is confident enough. If someone have to listen to you, how do you make them listen to you? By telling that you're a confident speaker, one, and secondly by telling them that whatever the information you have is authentic, the authenticity that you have inside you. So suppose I come here without a PowerPoint. If you're going to talk somewhere, if you're confused about if you want a PowerPoint or not want a PowerPoint, I would not suggest that you go ask your mother, you go ask your father, you go ask your sister, you go ask your spouse about if you need a PowerPoint or not. The first person you need to ask about the necessity of a PowerPoint is you. You need to understand if the PowerPoint is a necessity for this particular information. To give out this talk, is PowerPoint a necessary thing? Therefore, when you become authentic to yourself, when you understand yourself, when you try to visualize yourself as someone who knows what you're talking, automatically it draws the attention of the audience who is in front of you. Therefore, make sure that you know your content very well. And the next thing, fifth, learn to tell stories. It is not about what you talk. Content is only 7% of reception. What matters more in public talking is about 93% of it is about your hand gestures, about your micro expressions, your facial expressions, about your postures, the way you stand, the way you are received in front of those people. So as you understand the fact that this is what is important, you try to tell a story instead of giving the facts, instead of telling them. So whatever the information you have, try to wrap it around a story. So now let's try listening to a story. Okay, I was in my 10th grade and I remember the teacher trying to ask me to read a novel in front of my whole class. My heart started racing and my palms started sweating. I did not know how to express myself. I did not know how to read a certain book she wanted me to read. But still, I stood up from my seat and slowly started walking towards the dais. The moment I got on the dais, I stumbled completely and I've become so mum that I couldn't talk anymore. So, the whole crowd started laughing at me. And that was the first instance of me going through guilt and shame, and therefore I had the shame of public speaking that has also built in me the fear of public speaking. So now you understand how the modulation of voice, how you tell a story, how it is received by the audience in front of you. So whatever you're trying to tell about, whatever this speech is about, make sure that your message is wrapped inside a story so that people who are listening to you do get a better understanding of it and it is more engaging. And also, India is the land of stories, starting from the epics of Mahabharata to Ramayana. Those are all nothing but the stories that have been told through generations till now, and that's how all of these epics are still alive and being spoken in everyday life. So therefore, whatever you say, try to make sure that you make it into your story and wrap your message around the story so that you connect with the audience better. Next is, you have to dress confidently in order to make sure that you become confident, and then you make sure that people who are sitting in front of you or standing in front of you do have a look of confidence in you. Once you're confident about yourself, once you're dressed confidently, once you look confident to yourself when you look in front of mirror, that makes it very easy for you to stand in front of a crowd confidently and speak. The next thing is about practice. So it doesn't matter if you're going to reach 10 people, 20 people, 200 people, but you have to make sure that you practice what you're going to say the next day. Speak in front of mirror, speak in the shower, speak to everyone that you see, speak to people at the home. So try to memorize what you're going to talk. Try to have an expression, build the story around what you're going to speak about. Have the practice of doing this again and again. Therefore, it becomes permanent for you and the fear that you have shall be lost in the process. Now, the next thing after the practice is you should definitely know your audience, who you are going to talk to. If you are going to give a business pitch to venture capitalists, if you are going to give a motivational speak to people, if you are going to speak to your students, if you are going to speak to your colleagues, if you are going to speak to your higher ups, you need to understand the audience you are going to talk about. So according to the audience, you have to transform the message that you are going to tell them. If you are going to speak, if I am going to give the same content to 10-year-old kids, this is not how I am going to speak to them. I would not dress the way that I am dressing currently, or I would not speak in the vocabulary that I am currently speaking, because this is meant for professionals and also college students who would want to improve their public speaking skills, and therefore this is how I am talking, because my audience would want to receive it in this particular way rather than me telling a story around these little tips that I am going to give about public speaking. And once you know your audience, you have to do a little research about who the audience are if you do not know them already. If you do not have a prior idea about the people, do a little research. Know about the demographics, know about their age, know about what they're expecting from you, know about what their background is. And therefore, when you go, you would know what to talk to them before you're already connected to the people, before you go to them about what they would be interested in by doing the background check. Now, if you look at one of the second last tips, don't dwell on your mistakes. Suppose on the stage, if you're standing and you've made a mistake, instead of telling a particular word, you've said another thing. If you're going to say, sorry, I should not have said this, you're making the people in front of you, the audience, notice the mistake you've made. Never do that. What you do is you go on with the flow. Maybe a lot of people in the audience might not have noticed your mistake. Even if it is a mistake, it is okay. Just move on. Do not dwell on the mistakes you've made in the public speaking, because that would make audience lose the confidence in you. Rather than building the confidence, it is going to do opposite. So authenticity is important, but also you should understand that when someone is not noticing your mistake, do not point towards your own mistake. The last thing I'm going to say about here is change in your physiology. So when you're going to speak in front of a crowd, according to research, it is shown that it is one of the first fears people have. It is one of the most feared to speak in front of public, and the amount of physiological change that you undergo when you're standing in front of audience is similar to the fear that you undergo when you are in a gunpoint. So that is the similarity of fear you have. I wouldn't say that I don't understand, but I do understand to an extent that people do have this fear, but you need not, because once you master the skill, once you understand yourself, once you are confident about the content and about yourself, and if you are capable to speak to a set of people in front of you, it will make it completely easy for you to talk in front of a crowd. And what helps you most in public speaking is being aware. When you're aware about yourself, and you should also be aware about the fear that you have. Therefore, once you're aware, only then it is possible for you to overcome the fear that you're going through. What fear do you have when you're standing in front of a crowd? Your fear of being criticized, your fear of people having opinions about you, you have fear of not being good enough for the people you're talking to, you also have fear of tripping on your own words, you have fear of being a laughstock in front of the whole crowd. So how to overcome all of this? The only way to overcome the fear is to build confidence and practice what you're doing with a lot of people that you know, with your family and friends, so that when you go in front of strangers or in front of colleagues or in front of people that you not know about, it becomes easy for you to understand, because all of them are just human beings, and the responses that your family and friend gives will be very similar to the responses you get from the audience that are sitting in front of you while you are doing a public speech. Yeah? If you like the video, if you like the tips and the secrets that we've spoken about today, please do enroll and make yourself a good public speaker. And this is a program that is sponsored again by Viveka Service Society under Nirman, a capacity building institution. Thank you for being with us.